People are so excited for this game. I mean, this is really bloody and really awesome and innovative, and there's crazy enemies, and it just looks fantastic.
It's very realistic when it comes to the weapons and the costumes. It's very fantastic when it comes to the sort of superhuman athletics and the magical powers.
It's exploring new worlds, seeing new places and new creations.
Fantastic, beautiful historical vistas and crazy neon-filled New York skylines.
You might think, well, oh, this is a game that's just going to look good and gameplay is secondary, but fans of the series know the gameplay is not going to be secondary.
I've never seen violence that was that crazy, just so over the top. It's like the best of the slasher movies out there.
The dismemberment that's amazing.
This game is non-stop action. I mean, one after another, boom, 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 boom. It's to the point where it's like so over the top, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. You know, it's like you do it again. Oh, can I do it again? And you just want to keep doing it.
There's just body parts all over, and it's awesome. The thing about Team Ninja is they're very, very specialized, very, very skillful. They have this amazing reputation that's kind of a little intimidating, but you know if you send them in, the job's going to get done.
Team Ninja, to simply call them game developers is to not understand who they are. They give games a soul, a tight-knit clan. Their vision, their passion, and their drive begins with their leader, Tomonabu Itagaki, a free spirit who demands perfection.
Itagaki definitely stands apart from his games. He really walks into a room as if he was Mick Jagger circa 1973. There's just something so kind of raw and exciting about him that you can feel that who he is so consistent with the games that he makes.
Itagaki-san is the driving force. He is the inspiration. He is the one who, you know, really kind of lays down everything, not only in terms of what he wants to see in his game, but also the philosophy, how we act, how, you know, everybody treats each other.
If I met 100 people, probably only 3 would be people that I would actually be able to relate to. It's very important to have those people with you and nearby. And when it comes time to fight, those are the kind of people you need by your side, and those are the kind of people you have to have in order to accomplish something.
Itagaki-san is the headmaster, and I think he looks at Team Ninja as his family.
The true ninja were not lone warriors of stealth. They were part of a clan, and that clan was everything to them, providing moral and spiritual guidance.
The commanders of the ninja families knew what was in the best interest for the family. Decisions in terms of tactics, how things would be done, which battles to engage in, which battles to withdraw from, were all made from that bigger vision.
The clan was very, very important. They wanted to keep their village peaceful, and that was all what they wanted.
We do have Itagaki-san, who is kind of our clan leader, so to speak. He's the closest thing we have to being a super ninja, so we have that trust and that respect there.
He's always right out there, at the forefront, leading his troops and fighting his battles. I really feel like I can rely on him, and I can be one of the troops that's following him as he's blazing the trail.
Every single person on the team, from, you know, the highest Itagaki-san to the lowest, you know, guy working in the trenches, they all are like I'm going to do my best job on this particular element. When you have 80, 90 people with that same goal, it's just amazing.
Our rules are simple. Do your best and never lie.
Itagaki is faced with issues big and small every day. Because his vision comes from within, his decisions are swift and true.
これは、もう上がった時に手前にいるじゃん。向こう側から走ってくるようにしてくれ。はい。上がったらいるじゃんかもう。はい。上がったらだから画面の奥手に配置してさ。はい。
I think it's amazing how he's able to come in and make decisions swiftly and decisively.
He's just saying, look, you know, if a decision needs to be made, I'll just make it and then let's move on to the next thing.
He will, literally. Not joking. He'll make an instant decision and he'll make the best decision right then and there, and I think that's a gift that he has. And I trust him implicitly when it comes to making those kinds of decisions.
I tend to look for people that have things that I don't have, that can bring something that I don't possess to the team, and a good example of that is Matsui. In Ninja Gaiden II, the main character, Ryu Hayabusa, is a character that was designed by Matsui. The character of Ryu Hayabusa had existed before I even started working at Tecmo. It was in the old Ninja Gaiden games for Nintendo Entertainment System back in the 80s.
The first Ninja Gaiden was the story of him kind of realizing his potential as the Super Ninja. As we see him throughout his journey in Ninja Gaiden 2, he is kind of using that knowledge and applying that to every situation that he's running into. You can kind of see that progression as he grows up.
I have a big crush on Ryu. He is a super stud as well as a super ninja. He's powerful, he's strong and silent, he's got, you know, those massive biceps, and he can, you know, kill anything in his path.
He is somewhat of an iconic character, this mysterious, very charismatic character in many ways.
We wanted to portray Ryu Hayabusa as being the kind of ninja that comes along once in many generations. I realized back when making Ninja Gaiden 1 that we had to go all the way back and think about what are ninjas themselves. What makes a ninja who he is.
The ninja of Japan had several famous qualities. One was enduring patience. In fact, the nin of ninja, when you write it, that's what it translates as, enduring patience. It means I've got my eye on the big goal, the big battle, and I'm not tempted to get involved in little small battles along the way. Skills like moving across water, up a castle wall in a shadow, this was of great necessity to the ninja because the ninja was an intelligence gatherer. They needed to go secretly into areas where they could find out what was going on.
Their entire existence depended on every individual member, willing to sacrifice their lives for the sake of the greater good. That was a core concept that I knew we needed to express first before we could delve into his character even deeper.
Every day was the potential for extreme violence. And so to live with that every day, knowing this may be my last day, this may be the last day my family lives, took an enormous amount of strength.
To be balanced physically and mentally, it's very important. Otherwise, you're going to be like one-sided kind of person. So to find a balance in between becomes very important.
The way of the ninja required one to balance mind and body, break down the Japanese ideogram for nin, you'll find heart and blade. You can inspire the heart, but also require a blade.
It's okay for a game to be slightly unbalanced, but it has to have an overall sense of beauty to it.
It's obvious when you look at Itagaki-san's games that he wants them to look good in service to the gameplay, to show the intensity of the violence.
The beauty is definitely important because we need that to contrast with the violence because we're trying to create an overall image. There was a book many years back about Japanese philosophy called Chrysanthemum and the Sword. And chrysanthemum is a symbol of beauty, and the sword is a symbol of fighting and winning. We really try to bring those elements together so that you have the beautiful backdrops, but then you have the violence and you have the fighting that's going on in front of it.
I strive to include things that everybody can find beautiful. The flower, bird, the wind, the moon. These are the things that are universal, that everybody finds beautiful.
Kachou Fugetsu. Ka is flower, Cho is bird, Fu is the wind, and Getsu is the moon. And those are the elements that are really used in Japanese art.
There are a lot of beautiful types of flowers. I think that some of the ones we like are, of course, the cherry blossoms because of how beautiful they are, but also how fragile. I think if you go back and look at all of our games, you see that they all include cherry blossoms at one point or another. I'm from the countryside, mountains and rivers and things like that, so I really like the beauty of the landscapes. So I may go to a river, and I'll notice like a stand of weeds or some plants by the side of the river, and I'll get down with my camera and get down into a low pose and take a shot with the light coming from the other side. I'll go back and I look at how the light behaves and how it shines, and I'll say, is it possible to recreate that effect? I think it's important not only to try to mimic reality, but also try to understand what makes that environment beautiful.
People who play a game developed by Itagaki-san, they're looking for a high difficulty level, but they're also looking for this almost irreverent cultural tone.
You don't have too many games that are set in modern times with a kind of ancient hero. So it's kind of a different perspective because the settings are modern day, but his abilities are still rooted in the past, in the ninja tradition.
I think every Japanese feels the respect towards that ninja culture, and that's something that is always present. The influence is huge. It's in my DNA.
To go to the birthplace of the ninja, one must travel outside of Kyoto to the mountains of Iga.
The mountains of Iga are not tall, high mountains. They're old mountains. There was a young warrior who came from the village of Togakure, and he ended up in Iga. He encountered these teachers in the mountains.
There were lots of people living in that area. They came from China, really. They developed their own fighting style.
And this is how the Togakure lineage of the ninja began. The samurai families were the noble aristocrats who ran the country. The ninja tried to gain political control that would allow them to be leaders of their own destiny.
The definition of winning was different for a warlord or samurai than it was for a ninja. And I think examining how the ninja lived and how they prepare for that fate is what kind of interests me.
Their approach to war was very different because the ninja didn't have the money, they didn't have the people to mount a similar army, so they needed a different way of winning. And that created what we know of as the art of the ninja.
The ninja of feudal Japan have faded into history, but the teachings of ninjutsu live on, passed down through generations.
We're in the Hombu Dojo. This is where it originates from in the ninjutsu world. This is Hatsumi Sensei's dojo.
Masaaki Hatsumi was my ninja teacher. I moved to Japan in the 1970s to study with him.
Okay, in one fashion.
And he's the 34th head of this Togakure lineage. His teacher was Toshitsugu Takamatsu, the 33rd headmaster. He was born in the 1800s. Takamatsu Sensei chose Hatsumi Sensei as his heir, as the one to take it on into the 20th century.
There are 5 important teachings in ninjutsu. Undying devotion. You must always follow the precepts of a true path. Natural endurance, natural transcendence. And the last is enlightenment. This essence of light is the same way the sun gives off radiance to the earth.
The tradition that he has is around 900 years old.
So our lineage, we refer to it as 34 generations old. In this particular type of a clan, it's not bloodline, but this is a clan.
The whole ninja culture was based on preserving the clan because in ancient Japan, there was a feudal system. Everyone was a member of a caste, but the ninjas were outcasts. They weren't part of the system, so their entire existence depended on every individual member, willing to sacrifice their lives for the sake of the greater good.
The dragon sword is gripped firmly in the hands of young ninja Ryu Hayabusa.
In Ninja Gaiden, the Hayabusa clan is Ryu's family. It was their fate that sent Ryu on this path.
In the story of the first game, the Lord of the Greater Fiends Doku is sent to the Hayabusa village to retrieve the Dark Dragon Blade, and in the process, he slays all of Ryu's clan members. He basically decides to set off on revenge. So the story of Ninja Gaiden 1 is Ryu Hayabusa's journey to the Vigor Empire to wipe it out, and he is ultimately successful.
In ancient days, if someone lost their family, a ninja's clan was wiped out. Their view was that the spirits of that clan, they still exist. They still have an investment in what happens on the earthly plane. It would be that one last ninja's moral imperative to go out and right the wrongs that created the ability for these murders to happen. That becomes his whole mission in life.
Ryu, they're heading for the Hayabusa village. Your clan is in danger.
The story of Ninja Gaiden 2 is not directly related to the first game. Ryu, of course, defeated all of the fiends of the Vigor Empire in the first game, but there is actually another group of fiends that exists.
Dagradai resurrects and restores the Archfiend to power.
They are planning to resurrect this deity, this god of theirs called the Archfiend. Once again, the Hayabusa village is attacked because it holds a sacred artifact that these fiends need to attempt this resurrection. Hayabusa basically has to once again avenge the deaths of his fellow clan members. There is another side element that's very important, which is the struggle between the Black Spider Ninja Clan. Their leader, whose name is Genshin, provides a foil for Hayabusa.
How the vaunted Dragon Ninja bloodline has withered.
The Black Spider Ninja Clan, under the leadership of Genshin, has kind of teamed up with the Fiends. Ryu Hayabusa is the quintessential male hero. He reflects all of the ideals that we have, about fighting for something that you believe in, about, wanting to protect your loved ones, about, wanting justice against evil.
Even though you have that ruthlessness part of him, you know the things that why he's doing things, and as you're controlling him, it's for a good cause, or there's some justice in it, and the storyline behind the game is towards that justice, and I think that warrior code does come out.
We wanted to portray in his character the feeling that not only is he incredibly powerful, but he has responsibilities. He isn't a lone wolf. He is part of a clan.
A lot of times you have the story first, and then you come up with the enemies. But this time around, our artists came up with a group of amazing, high-quality enemies, but we couldn't put them all in, so we had to figure out how we were going to organize them. So we started out with getting 4 greater fiends, who are kind of the big bosses of the game.
You may call me Alexei. Wolf, greater fiend and ruler of storms. I am Sidonius, ruler of flame.
I am Elizabeth.
So that's how things started. Now we know who our main bosses are going to be, but we have a huge amount of high-quality enemies that have already been modeled and are ready to be put in. Now, for various reasons, we can't put every single one of those enemies in. We went in and decided what enemy was going to be in the game and which were not. Every guy on a team has enemies that he likes, that he's worked on, he doesn't want to see go. We might be out drinking one night, and one of the team members will saddle up to me with a drink, and he'd be acting like a door-to-door salesman. He'd be like, well, you know, that this enemy has a really cool tail attack, and I just want you to know that he could be really fun in certain situations. So some enemies actually got put back in because some of the team members were so attached.
The enemies in the game, they really come at you with everything they've got. They're just filled with a desire to finish you off.
That increases the pleasure that you get when you finally defeat those enemies.
The enemy AI is responding intelligently to the battle that's going on. So the way you injure the enemy AI is going to actually influence the way they fight you. The intensity of the fighting is going to be ratcheted up because this enemy is going to feel more threatened. They're going to be desperate. You almost feel like you're playing against a human player.
The first game was basically, you got an enemy's life down to 0, now he's dead. But in this game, you can lop off limbs and then do an obliteration technique which will finish an enemy off quicker.
But one of the coolest things about the obliteration technique system is that it'll actually change up the move depending on the situation. So you might get one move for, a left arm, and you might get another move for a right arm, and then a different move for a decapitation or for a leg missing. So even on the same weapon and even on the same enemy, you're going to see different animations depending on what happens.
So if an enemy loses an arm or loses a leg, their AI will change accordingly, and the attacks that they do will change accordingly. If an enemy has lost an arm or a leg, you can finish them off quicker, so you have the incentive to finish the battles faster.
Very important to be able to win a fight as quickly as possible. That's what the ninja wanted to do. get it over with very quickly so that somebody else wouldn't sneak a lucky move in or wear down the ninja or give them time for their allies to show up and assist them. So it became very, very important. One move, fight's over.
Itagaki-san has talked about a lot in interviews. There's definitely a idea in the Japanese warrior code that if you're fighting a guy who's reasonably skilled, that there should be a certain amount of respect. Hayabusa respects this, and rather than letting an enemy suffer, putting them out of their misery is one way of saying, hey, I respect you, you fought well, now it's time for your soul to go on to the next plane.
The ninja's combat art was called taijutsu. This is the art of using the body. Enormous endurance, the ability to take a hit, the ability to climb where nobody else could climb. This is a part of the historical training. That kind of intense training was just the foundation.
The ninja often operated under tremendous physical and mental stress, where the price of failure was death. To prepare, mind and body were trained until a ninja's edge was sharper than the blade they wielded.
In Japan, you don't ask questions, you wait to get the answers. So you get in the dojo, the first day you just learn some postures. You're like, what's this for? Well, you're already not learning if you're asking the question. In America, we want to ask questions. Well, how do you do this? How do you do that? In Japan, you just train, and your teacher will give you those answers through learning. Sensei said that it takes, about 15 to 20 years to even get to that level. Perseverance to continue.
It is human nature to seek answers. The ninja often learned from what was unsaid, left to search for meaning while pondering the motives of the masters. It was a difficult and vital step on the path to enlightenment.
Itagaki just seems to have that personality and demeanor that he wants to create something that's really good but really challenging. And you're almost not just trying to beat the game, but you're trying to appease him and get his approval if you can actually survive.
I hate people that don't do their best. So when I'm challenging something and when I have a goal, I put everything that I have and all of my time into achieving that goal.
With Itagaki's games and with Team Ninja's production quality, it's never so much as simple as just working your way from one level to the next. There's always more stuff going on. There's always sub-quests to do and secrets to find and that kind of thing.
In Ninja Gaiden 2, you come to this gap in your path. A new user to the game isn't going to know that you're supposed to do the wall run to get past this gap. They're going to just kind of stand there and wonder what to do. Well, instead of just throwing up some tutorial text to say, here's how you do the wall run, they ended up having some enemies run towards them, do the wall run themselves, and then users were able to see that, defeat the enemies, do the wall run to get across that gap and keep playing the game. It's a great example of Team Ninja being able to create these engaging experiences that are teaching people how to play the game.
When Ninja Gaiden, the first one, was going through certification, they actually had to fly in a guy from Team Ninja to play the game for us because nobody here could get through us. And these are, game testers, people who play games for a living, and even they were just like, dude, call Japan, we need some help.
It challenges your sense of yourself as a gamer. Like, man, can I really play this game?
I picked up that game pretty early on, kicked my butt a whole lot more than games of that ilk, which I kind of like that. I kind of like a game that pushes you to your limits.
I kept on playing and trying to get past it. That's usually the good indicator that even if a game is difficult, that it's still well made, is that you don't put down the controller and walk away from it. It was just me until 3 o'clock in the morning, fighting. And when you finally did get through it, you just felt like a hero.
People may say that it's a masterpiece, or people may say that they had issues with it. Or people may have had parts where they were frustrated by it. The key, I think, for us is that we want to make something that people are waiting for.
A lot of people believe the first game was difficult in a frustrating way. One of our goals in the beginning of development was to approach it in a way that we could make the game accessible to as many gamers as possible.
The fact that there's this regenerating health bar that a lot of people associate with traditional style games like shooters, where you go run into a corner and you wait for your health to come back. And that change and the way that he's implementing it is a way to allow non-hardcore gamers to get into the game and play it and not feel deeply punished. But if you set it to the most difficult setting, it's not going to interfere. It's not going to be a different Ninja Gaiden experience in terms of the difficulty if you want it to be hard.
Hajime Sensei teaches that ninjutsu is the art of 1,000 forms and infinite variations. The weapons of the ninja were as diverse as they were deadly.
The ninja would employ tools that fit into the community in a way that maybe they didn't even look like a weapon.
We've got a number of great new weapons that are making their first appearance in Ninja Gaiden 2. The goal is to make every weapon good enough that you want to play the entire game through it. And you're going to feel like you're having a unique experience each time. We have the scythe.
What this is a long, heavy, powerful weapon that Hayabusa can wield that has a very large area of effect. It has a very wide arc. This is something that is very fun to wield, and it's very satisfying in terms of just being able to cut through enemies.
There are the claws.
What this basically does is turn Hayabusa into a human weapon.
He can run on walls, he can jump. Claws allow him to apply that to fighting.
All of his martial arts and all of his athletics and acrobatics are able to be used to attack the enemy.
The long bow, back in ancient times, was about 6 feet tall, which is actually taller than the people in those days. And it was a great weapon because they were everywhere, a walking staff. It didn't attract a lot of attention.
The lunar staff was a weapon that has appeared in previous games. Before, it was really just a staff. In Ninja Gaiden 2, it is a staff that has iron weights on each end that are connected with chains. And each of these iron weights have spikes, so, as you can imagine, as you're swinging this thing around, it is incredibly lethal.
The kusarigama was a very interesting weapon. On one end would be a blade on a handle sticking out, long chain, and on the end of the chain would be a weight.
The cool thing about this weapon is you can not only do cutting attacks with the sickle portion of it, but you can also do pulverizing and smashing attacks with the iron weight that's attached on the end.
And so in the heat of battle, this weight thrown at an attacker would hit, aiming at the hands, very fragile bones there holding a sword, or the face, something that would make that attacker flinch. Could you imagine the terror that the swordsman felt? And all of a sudden, here's this hit to the face. Where did that come from?
You have the tonfa. It was what the nightstick is based off. You hold them in each hand and it's swung to hit enemies. And this is really cool because it's a hitting action, not a slicing action. So when that connects with an enemy, you're gonna feel that crack.
These are weapons of Okinawan origin. You hold them in both hands and swing them. They're very similar to the claws in that they're very speedy and can hit the enemy multiple times. With the tonfas, you can actually pulverize a limb into basically ground meat.
Very important to combat in ancient Japan was the Japanese sword, the katana. It was used on foot by samurai in later years. So that was the #1 weapon. And the ninja, of course, had to be very familiar, defending against that sword, but also using swords themselves.
In the first game, the Dragon Sword was pretty much considered the default weapon and the best weapon, and if you wanted to get through the game easily, use the Dragon Sword.
You'll notice that the Dragon Sword this time around is a lot more flexible. It has a lot more moves, it can really be a signature weapon for Hayabusa, and is a great partner to all the obliteration techniques.
There was a skill of fighting with two swords at the same time, and so you can imagine how confusing that would be to an enemy who's used to seeing just one at a time.
The dual katanas were present in Ninja Gaiden Sigma, but in that game they were incomplete. It didn't have a lot of moves and there were very few things that you could do with it. This time around though, we were obviously re-envisioning it as a completely new weapon. You have obliteration techniques, and there are so many more things that you can do with this weapon, so I certainly encourage everyone to get their hands on a new dual katanas.
The ninja, so lethal with body and blade, were known as invisible warriors, a tribute to their concealment skills and a lack of true knowledge about them. Rumors spoke of ninja who used magic to disappear, walk across water, or strike down an enemy.
Well, the term ninjutsu, jutsu means an art or a technique. And then there's another term, ninpo. Ninpo would be the magic of knowing how the universe and the inhabitants, the people and the animals and the weather and everything, knowing how that works. And so that is the traditional magic of the ninja.
Ninpo is supposed to be ninja magic. And I think a lot of people in the first game felt like, yeah, they were cool, but, you know, it was really a take it or leave it kind of thing.
What we've tried to do in this game is make sure that each one has its own individual purpose and make sure that although the ninpos are, of course, designed to kill enemies, that you really get the satisfaction and feeling that you finish an enemy off.
The new game, you want to use them, right? You want to be constantly pushing that ninpo button because it's just so badass what happens.
In Ninja Gaiden 2, when you use the Art of the Inferno, which is the fire ninpo, and you hit an enemy with it, that enemy will be enveloped in flames and will run screaming on fire until it finally burns to death.
We have a ninpo in Ninja Gaiden 2 called the Wind Blades. Shoots out blades of wind that cuts the enemy into pieces.
Itagaki-san came to me and said, the enemy should be just cut into pieces. Just cut him into shreds. And so when we were thinking about how to best achieve that, he came to me with this comic book and said, look at this. Here's one way you could do it.
Itagaki-san first came to me to explain what he wanted this Wind Blades ninpo to be. I didn't really understand what he was getting at. I couldn't really conceive what he was looking for. It wasn't until we went through several versions and it became what it is right now that I finally got it and said, oh, I see. This is what he was shooting for.
There are a lot of these ninja skills that look supernatural or impossible, but actually they're grounded in reality. For instance, ninja are heard of as walking on water. Well, how would you do that? In the marshes of Iga, there are a lot of plants that grow there in shallow water. There could be a construction that a ninja would use. It looks like a great big giant raft that could be strapped to a foot. And by sliding those, they would push the plant growth down and create some stability for themselves. Now, when you look at it, it looks like the ninja is walking on water.
We've made it so that he can not only run on water, but he's going to be a very effective fighting force on top of the water. Every weapon will have its own unique attack that is used when you're in and around the water, so that we can add even more depth to that portion of the game.
Ninja Gaiden 1 was the first action game that we ever did. We knew that there was a ton of things that needed to be improved on, and that was just something we had to do.
Despite the fact that the first Ninja Gaiden was known as an amazing game and a masterpiece by a lot of gamers out there, we didn't necessarily share that sentiment inside the team.
Itagaki-san and other people on the team felt like Ninja Gaiden 2 should be really unique in its visual presentation, so that every background that you look at, you're thinking, wow.
You have ninjas fighting monsters in the middle of New York. It's a mix of historical accuracy mixed with fantasy and science fiction and lots of horror elements as well.
What we do is we send people to New York to take pictures. We send people to Mount Fuji to go and take shots. And we include those so that you can know immediately, oh, that's Mount Fuji. I know exactly what that is.
This is what makes the difference between a good game and a great game.
Obviously, some locations in the game were inspired by traditional Japanese architecture. The Hayabusa village, we tried to kind of give the essence of what a period village might have looked like. But the majority of the game takes place on a worldwide stage. For Ninja Gaiden 2, we're trying to create something that can really be a masterpiece, that will show off everything that this team is about.
Making a game is a process where if there are 100 elements, 90 of them are created pretty much automatically. It's the remaining 10% that is the key. That's what defines if it's a good game or not. Those are the hardest things to lock in. Those are the hardest things to do, and that's my job. And that's one of the hardships I go through.
The pursuit of perfection is the chosen journey of many great minds. Whether designing a video game or planning a battle, the success or failure of such pursuit is often found in the details.
The ninja would be out in the field and needed to be able to interpret intelligence as they went along. They had to have their hand, their mind, their perceptions on what's going on, and then make up their mind as they went along.
Itagaki-san likes to be aware of all facets and all parts, whether it's the game development, some of the marketing, the design, the colors. It's just such a thrill for everyone, all teams involved, when he does come to Microsoft, because it's our opportunity to meet the man, the legend.
So the very first time we got a build, the only way he was comfortable bringing it was physically carrying a disc with him on his person.
I want to officially welcome you to Microsoft for today's playtest session. Today you will be playing Ninja Gaiden 2. As you play through the game, I want to let you know that there will be a developer here watching you play. As you play through the game, please do so as you normally would if you were playing it at home.
What we do is we bring these folks into our playtest labs, and they sit down, they play the game, and they give us feedback about how difficult it is. It was exciting to watch Itagaki-san in our labs and to talk to him about how people were playing the game. We're able to provide him with that data about, here's how difficult your normal level is, here's how difficult Master Ninja is, here's how difficult the easy level is.
We can determine early on, are users actually having fun in the game, or what elements do they struggle in the game?
At first it was a little bit easy, but then they switched it to like some really difficult mode, I think, and it got really hard. It took me like at least 45 minutes to get used to it and learn some more moves. And then once I learned them, I got much better.
It's difficult, but I like that, like a challenge. It challenges your imagination and how you can end up beating what you're stuck on. Eventually, when you beat it, you're happy about it, and you're like, yeah, I did that.
I like how it looks like it's real. The fact that it looks like real ninjas doing it and fighting each other, and it's a cool to experience it.
The beauty of the game and just the style of it is what will appeal to more casual gamers. But if you don't have the hardcore stamp on it, you're not gonna sell copies. I mean, and that's what they will do.
A hardcore gamer, yeah, they'll end up spending half the night with a dozen donuts and a 12-pack of soda. And a normal game will just sit there with a soda and maybe a bag of chips. It's a very good game, very challenging, which is a good quality in a game for me. I don't like games that are so easy that you just walk right through and it's done.
Any action game worth its salt is gonna have smart AI and really, really tough enemies. But you're rewarded with like amazing, battles and buckets of blood.
He's creating a game that's pushing his team, that's pushing the engine, that's pushing the graphics in the way that he's trying to push players.
When faced with a great challenge, the ability to focus is paramount. The past and the future hold no sway.
The concept of Nakaima, being right in the moment, the middle of now, the middle of the moment is so important. The mind wants to project forward. How can I win this? Or the mind projects backward. Oh, what did I do wrong? And this is a way to defeat. What we have to do is be of that pure mind, right in the middle of this moment.
If I have something that needs to be done, then I'll do it. Like if you told me to make a game based on these 3 cushions here, I'm willing to bet you that I could come up with a game design better than anybody about how to use these 3 cushions in a game. And if I've set my sight on doing that, I'll do it. I'll be very serious and very focused about making that.
Itagaki, most of the time, can back up what he says. If he was putting out crap but talking smack, he'd look foolish. But he doesn't do that. He makes great games, and I don't see Ninja Gaiden 2 being any different.
Since the original Ninja Gaiden came out on the Xbox, that the amount of people that are playing video games and have more of an appetite for something challenging like this has grown. And I think as more awareness of this game occurs, that there's going to be a general sense of, okay, we want to play this game.
I'm most proud of the fact that this game has become that much stronger in its impact, that much more visceral. Something that just reaches out and grabs you in every aspect.
I treat everything as if it was a game with a clear winner and loser. And I want to do things where I can win. I'm confident that I can do what I've set out to do, and I know that people are going to enjoy it.